Hey everyone, Mr. Russell here to talk to you about how to find the slope when given 2 points. So on the screen right now, I have our general slope formula. Okay, so if you watched the previous video on finding slope of a graph, we talked about slope is always the change in y over the change in x. Okay, so when it comes to given 2 points, we think about what that means to find a change. We're trying to find the change in these two values. And we always calculate a change by subtracting. So that's why we establish our slope formula as y2 minus y1. Basically, we're subtracting the two y values of our points, and we're dividing that by x2 minus x1. Again, we're essentially subtracting the two x values of our points. So let's see how we do that. So here's an example. It says find the slope between the following points, -2, 3, and 6, -1. So if you use the slope formula exactly, what y2 means is the y value of the second point, and y1 means the y value of the first point. So you think about your 2 points. All right, well, over here, 6, -1 is our second point, so the y value of that would be -1. Remember, every ordered pair is in the format of x comma y. X comma y. They go alphabetically. Okay, so to calculate slope here, I would take -1. And from that, I would subtract the y value of our first point, which is 3. Okay, and I'm going to divide that by my change in x. Again, we do x2 minus x1. So I'm going to take the x value of my first point, and from that, I would subtract the x value of our first point. Okay, so 6 minus a -2. So we have to figure out this question though. What happens when I subtract a negative? Remember back from chapter 1, when you subtract a negative, that becomes addition. So a lot of times when we do these examples, you'll see us automatically change that into a plus sign. Okay, and now let's simplify. So up top, -1 minus 3 is -4. Now on the bottom, 6 plus 2 is 8. And with slope, we always want to simplify that. So then -4 over 8 would simplify to -1/2. Okay. Now, a point I want to make, everyone, is that you don't always need to follow the slope formula exactly. A lot of times students get very stressed out by remembering, oh, which y value has to go first, which x value has to go first. The thing that matters is that whatever point you start with, so in here, we started with the y value of our second point. So when we calculate the change in x, we have to also start with the x value of our second point. And I'm going to show you what happens if I flip that. So let's say I started with y1. So we went ahead and subtracted, put a line here, okay? And we subtracted, all right, y1, which is 3, and from that I subtracted a -1, which is y2. Remember, when we subtract a negative, that becomes addition. So up top now, I would have 3 plus 1, and we're going to divide that by change in x. Okay, well, since we started with the y value of our first point, we now also have to start with the x value of our first point. So now I would subtract -2 minus 6. So then we would simplify that. Up top, 3 plus 1 is 4. On the bottom, -2 minus 6 is -8. Oh, pretend that was in blue. -8. And then that would simplify. All right, well, +4 over -8 simplifies also to -1/2. So you notice we get the exact same slope, right? We still get the same thing. We have to be careful to keep it in order. So what I want to make sure you know is that this is what you should be remembering right here. Slope is change in y. The triangle, that's the Greek symbol. That means that's delta, and we use that to represent the phrase change. So change in y over change in x. Okay, y values up top, x values on the bottom. Thanks.